So welcome everyone to the Q&A for the How. It's my honor to introduce Monique Peck, the author of the book. And so whether you read the book or not, whether you have the book or not, you're welcome to come and ask your questions. She's going to be sharing a little part. So if you do have the book, you can follow along. Page 39 is where we're starting today. And I will pass it on to you, Monique, to take it from here. I will monitor the chat, so if you have questions as we go, please type them in the chat, and then I'll read those out at the right time to ask questions.
Thank you. Thank you for attending. When I was thinking about what to talk about today, there's been something that's really been kind of swirling around, and we find that if it's really up for us in our team, then often it's kind of up for other people in the community at large. And so then we end up having these other conversations with people that we maybe don't even know and end up talking about these same topics. So, kind of what has come up for us is this age of agency. And around between 12, 13, 14, we start to become aware and have the ability to understand and to make new choices. So I'm going to read a section from the book, and then we'll talk about kind of what's been going on, kind of different aspects of this topic. So this is the age of agency. So yes, page 39. The threshold of agency, significance of age 12 to 13. There's a significant shift that tends to occur around the age of 12 or 13, a threshold that is recognized across psychology, spiritual traditions, and consciousness-based teachings. While every child is different and development is not linear, this period is widely acknowledged as a turning point in human maturation. Until this age, much of who we become is shaped by our environment. Our subconscious programs, conditioned automatic responses, designed to protect us, are formed in response to the emotional tone of our surroundings, the relational patterns we witness, inherited responses programmed into our genes, and the unspoken messages we absorb about what is safe, who we are, and how the world works. These early frameworks are laid down with little or no conscious awareness on our part. We do not choose our beliefs at this stage, we inherit them. But something begins to shift as we approach adolescence. In the field of developmental psychology, this age marks the emergence of formal operational thinking. Children begin to engage in abstract reasoning and self-reflection. They become able to imagine future outcomes, weigh consequences, and understand cause and effect. They become more observant of emotional and energetic incongruencies in the adults around them, and the ability to regulate their emotions and consider the perspectives of others also begins to take form. In short, this is the time when a young person begins to develop the capacity for personal responsibility, not just for their behavior, but for their internal world, for the thoughts they entertain, the beliefs they hold, and the emotional patterns they carry forward. Spiritual traditions across the world, actually I'm going to skip this little part. So it goes into the various spiritual traditions right across the world, some of them in certain types of grouped practices, and then others that are totally different but still point back to the same thing. Okay, so I'm going to go past that part, and then in the realm of consciousness work and energy psychology, this age holds particular significance as well. Prior to puberty, children operate primarily in lower brainwave states, such as theta and alpha, which are associated with imagination, deep learning, and high suggestibility. These brainwave patterns are ideal for absorbing information from the world without questioning it, perfect for early development, but also the reason why early wounds and limiting beliefs sink so deeply into the subconscious. Around the age of 12, the brain begins to stabilize more consistently in beta waves, which are linked to critical thinking and self-awareness. This marks a transition, the point at which we begin to witness ourselves from the inside. We may question what we've been taught, possibly observing and challenging hypocrisy in authority figures. We start to engage with life not only reactively, but creatively. From this point forward, we have access to a new kind of power. We can choose. We can begin to question the programming we've inherited and recognize the patterned emotional responses that no longer serve us. We can observe when we are in misalignment and actively seek the tools that return us to our natural state of expansion. While the conditioning of our early years doesn't simply fall away, we now have the inner capacity to initiate repair, to lovingly rewire our beliefs, soften our defenses, and reconnect with our truest self. This moment of awakening, this crossing into self-awareness, is not a burden, but a profound invitation. It is the call to step into sovereign agency, the innate authority to choose or respond, to begin participating in our own becoming. In the teachings shared throughout this book, and in practices like the Presence Protocol, we offer a compassionate path back to alignment. We don't pretend that the path is always easy, but we affirm again and again that healing is possible, that freedom is real, and that from this age forward, the doorway to lasting transformation stands open. From this age forward, we are no longer only shaped by the world, we become participants in our own becoming. The door to conscious healing opens, and with it, the invitation to reclaim our inner world with compassion, clarity, and choice. One of the reasons I wanted to bring this up, and it just felt really, really important, is often when I talk about my story and some of the things I've experienced, people often remark, it's easy to talk about the mistakes you made parenting and the consequences of those. We really went through some stuff. Our kids really went through some big, big stuff. And a lot of that was because we were kind of a mess for quite a while in those really critical years that they were developing who they were and their own sense of who they were in the world and learning these things. And at that time, we had some of these tools and we weren't using them. So then we re-entered kind of this kind of work when our kids were later teens. And at that point, you're just kind of, bailing water out of a sinking ship and hoping for the best and doing things to repair and not doing things in a structured way that you would and choices that you would make as they are growing up, but kind of those holy shit things of what have I done and how do I rebuild and reconnect and establish love without need and all of those really, really big, deep concepts. So it is only now that we can talk about it a lot more easily than we may have been able to then. But now when we talk to parents that are in it, sometimes they end up stopping doing this work when they really start to look at that. when they really get to that place of understanding the damage that misaligned living causes in our relationships, and especially in those little developing humans, often it's so uncomfortable that we stop. And I think that's the reason I wanted to put this out today, so that it's there early on in the archives. And if somebody needs to hear this, they can find it. It's scary as hell when your kid is in a high risk situation and you're like, well, I'm not sure what I've done. A lot of parents seem to feel like they need to say, I did all I could, and somehow that soothes them. What's really important is what you do now. At whatever point you enter this work, what are you doing now? Because it's always in the now that we have agency over our own inner state and over the impact we have on others. So, sorry for that beeping. I'm sure you hear that. There is no shame in being human. There's no shame in misalignment. We learned that for a reason. We learned these adaptations to our behavior and our automatic thinking patterns for a reason. And then there comes a time when we can only at that time start to examine that, observe that, and with these tools start to kind of unravel some of the deeply anchored beliefs and automatic responses that are kind of there in our system around various situations in life. We kind of think, and it's a universal perspective that love for our children is naturally unconditional. We may have a commitment that we know is unconditional, like we may 100% make this commitment, I will always love you, but in a moment by moment situation, we may not be in that loving, other centered, aligned, open space to receive them and to hold that for them. I know when we were doing some repair work, but it was early stages, and we had a child who had left home young. And I could tell, absolutely could tell the difference when I was in a release state and I didn't need anything when they would call home, or when I was in a contracted state, needy of them to be okay for me to be okay. We're making big claims with the work that we do. We're making claims that we really can be okay in these situations. We can be more than okay. We can be fully aligned, fully present, able to hold what we need for the other person, even in the face of our own shame or our own guilt. And that doesn't have to throw us off or take away the power of what that love could do in that relationship. So repair is possible at any point, regardless of how badly things have been damaged, especially in you, in the adult doing the work. And then for children, this has been a question that has come up in our community a few times by concerned parents of children even before this age going, well, how do I know my kid is responding to me authentically, or if they're responding out of an adapted behavior? And the way we kind of check in with ourselves, we can kind of check in with our kids. And just to have the realization that all humans learn this way by scanning their environment and adapting, your child will adapt. They will adapt to the imperfect world that they're born into. That is normal. It's okay. And we have tools for them and for repair later on. And that's what was so exciting to me when I was really digging into the initial research around the Foundations course and then the book. What I started to recognize was we don't have to be freaked out that our kids are inheriting this world that's really just gone to hell, and it's all technology and nobody talks anymore and nobody knows how to relate, and all of these big kind of finite statements that we've made to kind of this prognosis of our world going forward. It's just not true. It's not true. Just like our adaptive behavior, that's not based in truth in this moment. It's based in learning from before. So repair is possible at any point, and repair starts with each individual. And for young ones coming up, the more we hold ourselves to this new standard of taking responsibility for our own inner state and the truth of our own sovereign agency, which sounds really good when we go, oh, I get to feel better at any time in any situation. I get to feel better, but also I have a choice. I can be better. I can do better. I can release. I can receive. I can open, so that when I'm working or when I'm across from a difficult person or a difficult situation, or maybe even a child acting out, we can challenge ourselves to also be better in that moment and not just try to be better and and try to talk ourselves into a better perspective, and I should be feeling this way and I should see them that way and I should act this way. This is totally outside of that operating system. This is checking with our inner state and knowing that if we're reactive, we have some choices and it takes some practice. And I've been absolutely blown away by the times I've been in the middle of a repeated relational battle where it was like, oh, right, I can release the response. I can release this self-protection response. I can release this right now in the moment. I can release this. And as my nervous system calms and as I can receive that higher vibration, that higher frequency of that love energy that's sitting up in my heart space, not the self-protection that's sitting low in my gut, and I've got just anxiety and my jaw is clenching and I'm saying things that I know I'm going to regret and all of those things. In the middle of that, dropping that away and being able to model the ability to do that. It's possible. So when we feel like I'm failing the commitment I made, there's a new answer that can be learned. There's new techniques that can be employed in the moment, and the inner state can shift, and then miraculous things can happen. I've seen it, I've experienced it. I'm so thankful and grateful for that. And for any one of you who is struggling with that part of it, feeling like the human should be able to hold unconditional love, be unconditional love, and then you're not able to hold it and be it and contain it and express it, it's okay. It's just the wrong premise, and we're trying to do that out of the wrong system, wrong operating system. Dr. Sarah would like to ask a question. Please
Yes,
do.
please. So I have a 12-year-old, as you know, and the two of the things that I find challenging in that relationship, one is I don't want her to be mad at me. And then
Mm.
second is when I do it wrong, I feel so guilty and I'm not sure how to fix that. So if you could speak to those, that'd be super helpful.
Yeah. I took team member through an exercise a little while ago, and I will just touch on it now. I won't actually take anybody through it because when you actually fully feel it, and it can be a little jarring. And so the exercise was, you're standing on a building. You know you're up high because you're seeing other buildings from up high and you're in the skyline. And it isn't until you look down that you realize you're right on the edge of the building. And now imagine stepping off. And your whole body starts to do the, shaking thing. That is your instinctual responses of your human mind body system that is so deeply programmed to stay alive. If you take that same scenario, now you're going to drop your child off the edge of the building. My question to the team member was, what felt worse? And it was like, yeah, the child. We need to recognize what part of the reactionary responses that we feel, we think they're just emotions and they're based in the relationship, but they're also core to the human mammal to keep the species alive. So it becomes really blurry. It feels like, well, we know what it feels like. It feels like death, right? It feels like that, the most core survival, like you're just getting geared up to do something. And if it's a choice at that point to drop your child off the building or jump yourself, you would jump yourself. Most people have that programming be so intense for them. So a couple of things when the guilt response, the deep, deep guilt response is related to that. It's not just mental. It's not just a thought pattern. It's not like I knew better and I shouldn't have done that and now I feel guilty. Guilt is here. Guilt is in the body. Guilt is core and it's tied in with our instinctual responses, just like a lot of our self-protection mechanisms. When we think about that inner response related to a child, then we go, oh, that's being really other-centered. And ultimately, it's still core in the same system where the rest of our self-protection resides. So sometimes the whole helicopter parenting issue, where someone feels like I can't let them go anywhere because I can't even let them. The possibility of them getting hurt is too great for me, so I'm just going to do this, and I carry this deep anxiety all the time. It's still linked in with that same instinctual core response system, and it seems like it's really overactivated in our society, and I'm not totally sure why that is, but it just feels very, very deeply rooted. It seems like my parents' generation, they had a different set of perspectives on when a child gets to certain ages and just letting them struggle through whatever they're going to struggle through. It seemed to be less of a problem for them. And we seem to be taking more of that on ourselves. But I know it's tied in with that core piece. The other thing about our child being upset with us is also, it also resonates right there. Ultimately, that's still about us. And it's not about them, and it's not about what's best for them in that moment. That was my biggest problem with my children, and it got worse for me when they became young adults or later teens, because when they were little, I had a different perspective on it's okay. You're not going to like what I'm doing. Like when they get their um, um, immunizations and they have to have a needle, or they need to go through things that are really uncomfortable, even painful, but it's for their benefit. In those situations, when they were little, I had a way easier time with that than when they got older. And for me, I know that as they got older, my responses tied in more with in my rooted responses to adults rather than kids. So having little kids was very new to me. I didn't have a lot of little kids around me, even growing up. But adults, I had lots of adults and lots of, I had a sibling and these kinds of adult peer-to-peer type relationships. And as our little kids turned into bigger kids and young adults, it seemed that the responses that were coming up in me were a lot more like responses to other adults. Ultimately, it's still self-protection, even if it's the deep response of guilt. And the best thing is let it drop away. Let the nervous system settle, use a presence protocol, and also the protocol will help you to see what's actually coming up. So if for me, if I'm in a response like that, and it was actually related more to the relationship I have with my sister, or even with another parent, maybe the battle I'm having with my child is more like one that I had with a parent. Maybe that will come up. And it's just triggering that same response pattern and not really related that much to the relationship. As we release that, then sometimes another layer comes up. As we let all that go, we can start to have a heart centered, higher self, intuitive self, informed response to that child. And it'll be more tuned in to what they need. And all of a sudden, you're able to respond and give advice or do whatever you need to do, truly with that perspective of this is truly for them, even if they don't like it, even if they don't like me in this moment. So the answer's always the same. We're going to apply it to different things, but it's always drop away the self protection response. Then you can tune into that other centered response, because in that moment, you're also tuned into unity consciousness, where you are then able to access your higher self, and you're more connected into the higher self of that person in front of you. So it can be pretty interesting, the intuitive leading that comes through and the perspectives and awareness that comes through, even about your child, when you can drop that away and receive that and speak that, and you can see some pretty amazing shifts. So hope that helps and it answers it from both sides.
Yeah, thank you. As you're speaking, I'm just getting this like wow moment, aha moment, because I'm seeing how my relationship with my daughter at this age is very similar to my relationship to other girls when I was that age, right? So it's like the
Mm.
12-year-old me with other 12-year-old girls and how I navigated that and how she's like pressing some buttons that have nothing to do with her. So thank
Mhm.
you. That's a great like reminder that oh, it's not I'm making it about it's happening inside of me, right? Whatever's happening between us. And thank you.
You're
Really good.
welcome. Great.
Anybody else have questions for Monique? I'm just going to read the chat here. I see Tanya's question here. Using the presence protocol, how does one begin to release this deep guilt that comes when we have done something wrong with our parenting, like really messed up?
Mhm. I'd like to say I didn't have any of that. As you can tell from what I'm sharing, I have a couple of things. One thing that as I we want to release the big guilt, the big elephant in the room guilt. And it never really works that way. We can only release the guilt that it's triggered in the moment. For me, that was my natural response most of the time to most everything from most everybody. I just had this overwhelming guilt response. It was always my fault. So then also the big things that were my fault got mushed in with everything else, and everything felt so overwhelming that I kind of started to chip away at some of this guilt stuff as the big elephant. And I recognize that some of that was also generational. So I know I'm not trying to kind of divert. So I did a couple of different things. I would work on it in the moment, and then I would work on the big one that was kind of generational, and did that in a more targeted way in a few different ways. And those two kind of worked together. As this one lessened, this one got a little easier. As this one got a little easier, this one lessened. With the child that left, I was really not present, beyond not present, for the last couple of years before she left. And our relationship was at the point where I couldn't really reach them emotionally. And there was no trust there at all towards me, which was understandable. And when I say not present, just really like not even noticing when they needed things, and not being there, and not being there for them. Especially when they were away and in a high-risk situation. That guilt over, I should have done this different, should have done this earlier, all of that, all the self-talk. But we start to kind of look at the self-assessment piece, and then we can't really unravel it from that point. If we try to unravel any of it while we're still misaligned, we will not receive any wisdom. Nothing will really change in us. And we also won't receive the perspective that we need for that child. And also, there's a really big immutable truth, a spiritual axiom, that we are all sovereign beings and we came to have experiences. So that concept of that child is their own being. They came to have experiences of life. Some will be good, some will be bad, some will be with you. And that part of that was a choice. Knowing that only really makes a difference when you can do the second piece, when you can do the piece around releasing the response from the body will help you come back into alignment. And the point isn't just getting regulated in your nervous system, right? It's to reconnect to your intuitive mind and your higher self. And in that place, you can receive bigger perspective on your child and the situation that's happened there. When you are in that space, even energetically, even on a level that you can't see, it will start to make some changes. It'll start to make a difference. And also you can receive some guidance. It can take a little bit, because I know guilt can be really overwhelming. So then it's a release, receive, step forward, step back, guilt again, release again, step forward. Okay, maybe you'll get a new perspective that will be just a perspective. Then you'll step back, guilt again, release again, receive an intuitive nudge. Maybe it is to reach out. Maybe it is to send a message. Maybe it is to, I'm not sure of your situation or how old. Obviously, it can be really different with different levels. My kids are all grown up, so it's like, oh yeah, when they're little, I'm not sure. But at any point, we can receive some intuitive leading of what's right to do when. Because also when we can access our intuitive mind and we are in that unified consciousness, quantum field space, that is also when we can receive intelligence and leading on when the other person is able to receive that. And if we can drop it from our own need, this is the big challenge. And part of that is because it's so core to our whole survival instinctual response. If we can release the need to receive anything from them, all of a sudden that love will be pure. And that love will have freedom attached to it in you and in the other person to receive it and respond authentically. So I get it. It's really big. You may need some help with that. So we can help you. It's a big one and we get it. We also have seen with people we've worked with, relationship restoration that blew their minds. They never thought it was possible, or they never thought it was possible to the degree that it has happened. So you just need to start and chip away little bit by little bit. Realize it's really deeply rooted and you're going to need to release it often, often, often. When that child was in that situation, this would be middle of the night, get up, cry my face off, realize that I'm no help to anybody in that state. Release, receive, rest, get perspective, get intuitive leading, do what I could when I was led to do that, and release it and allowed them to also be impacted by that shift in energy from me of not needing them to be any particular way for my sake. It's a big ask, and it's also a big declaration of freedom to parents. Not only will you be the most effective, but you'll also be the most free in your inner state. So I hope that helps. The piece around the generational release of an overburdening of guilt, that's something I'll be talking about in the future. And I talk about it a little bit in the book. But on both sides of it, there is the only place there's freedom is by releasing that response in the body and re-entering that space of being directed by the intuitive mind. So I hope that helps.
Great. If there's any other questions around this topic of the age of agency, significance of 12 to 13, this would be a good time for your questions. You can either put your hand up from the reaction button, or you can type in the chat.
Okay. So just checking the time, because I like to talk and talk and talk. Oh, do we have another comment in the chat?
Nothing yet.
Okay. I wanted to mention an exciting research project that we're going to be launching. We're just creating some framework around it now. It may be up to a year, but we may do some pilot projects ahead of time. And it is about this topic, and we'll be working with parents and youth around this age and adapting language and this information for them. For me, as I was saying about doing the research around the course initially, and then I had to keep parking all the depth of information, and that's what became the book. But what was exciting to me is the next generation didn't have to go through or doesn't have to go through what we went through as parents, what our children went through growing up. We can have an awareness and an understanding around their internal framework of protection that developed in our care, and not just in our care, but in being part of the human race, being part of society, going to school, interactions with other kids and other adults, and all of that. We can understand how we have developed this inner framework, and then around that age, they can start to learn some of these tools, start to see and start to trust what they're seeing and start to trust what they're seeing in us. And one of the things that we do now, and that I encourage other parents to do, is to own it, own their own stuff when their kids see it. Pick your timing, because if they're still, looking for a fight and they're just going to use it against you, they may do that anyway. There's very little benefit to that. I wouldn't say have that talk in the middle of your fight, or I certainly don't have that talk to diffuse the fight. But afterwards, if you've recognized that there's a response that you had that was coming out of self-protection, and you either, attacked them or really capitulated and you just, let them get away with everything, you can share that with them. You can share about where that came from, your own insights and perspectives around that, only if it makes sense and if you're led to. If you really feel, yeah, this is the right thing to do, because like I said, sometimes it's not beneficial, but you'll know when it is. If it really feels like that openness is there, it can really start to rebuild trust that was lost if you are vulnerable and open with what's there at the right age. But even in younger children, so our daughter has a 1.5-year-old, almost a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, and with them, she's been modifying what she does, and also, when she can kind of own what's going on that isn't aligned, and talking to them in different ways about that. And she says that's really been helpful. It just kind of works with the release and repair and release and receive and express and release and express and release and express, because the way we express our love when we're in an aligned state is so different than the way we express when we're in a misaligned state. So for them to start to recognize, oh, that's what this is, and that's what that is, and mom's just expressed that, like she's explained that to me, and I can start to trust that then. Even if she does this and she yells or she snaps or whatever, and then she comes back and does repair back in an aligned state where she's not doing it for me to make her feel better, all of a sudden I can start to trust that new pattern of relating and relationship. So that's a piece that I wanted to share, that we're going to be doing some bigger group study and bigger group work around this, especially finding language and finding ways to work with younger people, youth and younger, but especially in this context, youth around that age of agency, and where they can start to notice what they're doing internally, and they can observe and notice what you're doing as well. So that's really exciting. Yeah. Imagining a time where parents use these tools to align, where that becomes so natural because they've learned it young enough, that it ends up being the way they raise their kids. And then those children have no doubt the framework is still going to build. It's still going to be there. We can't avoid that. It is being human, and it is being human in society. There's no way to avoid that. Inner restrictions are going to form, and then they will reach this age, and they can choose to recognize. They'll learn what that is. They can recognize what it is, and then they can make another choice. So this is an exciting time for humanity moving forward. We're making some big claims. We're also expressing responsibility in a big way. Not everyone's going to take that challenge, but also that is where the freedom is, in that space to shift, make a change, release, receive something new. So I would like to finish with, if there's no other questions, I can just open it up for that for a minute. If there's nothing else, I'm going to end this session with some focused releasing around this. It's so core that it feels overwhelming in the body. It's so uncomfortable to consider our mistakes and the damage that that's caused, that could be where we stop. It is so critical that we don't stop, because this is also what's going to really make a shift in the life of the child that you have the guilt around. This is what's so crazy. We feel guilty. What we end up doing when we feel guilty is we withdraw. We shut down. The guilt is so hard to feel that we end up removing ourselves from the child that really needs us. It happens all the time. It's normal, but there's another way. So I think we should just release some of this reaction from our systems, whether it's touching something that you've experienced as a child from a parent, or as a parent to a child. It's okay. In this moment, you have a choice. And you have a choice to release the reaction from the body so that the body isn't fighting you, in returning to alignment where your power to change this and repair what's been done, that's where that power lies. So you can just get comfortable and drop your shoulders down and back, so you can take a nice deep breath, and just take a nice easy deep breath in and out, just to settle into that position. And just turning inward and observing whatever is up for you around this topic. It's a very charged topic. And I knew that going into today. I felt very, very led to bring this today. So thank you, all of you who are here and willing to observe and just be in it just for a moment. So whatever is activated in you, see what emotion is present. Name it if you can, and just see what the intensity is. You may also hear a conversation replaying and see an event. This is part of our memory system. It's very normal. It'll help us to identify what this physical feeling is attached to. Just allow that to come up, just observe it, and just check in with your body. Now, again, with the intention of interrupting the automatic response pattern and releasing the discomfort, the energy from our nervous system. Just raise your eyes up slightly and take a deep breath in and hold at the top. And opening your jaw fully, just let go. And just an easy breath in and out. Now, just going back to that same situation, or maybe it's changed for you, that's okay. But if the same one is coming forward, just again notice the emotion and the intensity. The intensity may have lessened or the emotion may have changed. Just observe. And again, notice if you're hearing anything, seeing anything. And check in with your body. See where you are holding your discomfort. And again, with the intention of releasing that nervous system response. So raise your eyes and take a deep breath in and hold. And opening the jaw, release fully. Especially when we have guilt. We feel like we don't deserve the release of the pain. This isn't about that at all. But just notice that that's sometimes what we do. Just know that this action, with the intention of creating the best situation within your mind and body system to be the most effective in the situation you're concerned about. Let that be your motivation to release this from your system. So again, thinking about that same situation or anything else, notice the emotion, what you're hearing, and maybe a conversation. It also may be a belief or a conclusion you've drawn. Whatever it is, just notice. You may also see something. Just check in with your body. One last time, we're just going to release that activation from our physical body. Raising the eyes, big breath in and hold. And with a focus on your chest, just letting everything go. Just an easy breath in and out. Noticing the chest and the heart space opening through this action. Allowing for a greater love energy to be there, to sit there, to be felt from there. As you look back on this release, see if there are any intuitive nudges, any greater perspective, any creative solutions that have come to you as you release into being directed by the intuitive mind. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I appreciate everyone's vulnerability and willingness to look at the uncomfortable with the view of reaching a new solution and finding a new peace and strength. Hope you join me next time. Bye.
Bye, everyone. We'll see you on September 1st. Will be the first Monday of September. Bye.